Every day, millions of Australian children play games at school. One of the most enduring of these games is Stuck in the Mud, a game played by two opposing teams who have to tag each other, making them stuck in the mud. But imagine if your only teammate left the game and never came back, leaving you stuck in the mud. Sadly, this is the reality that faces Gary Richards. So just how is this one game still going 19 years later?
Well, basically, we were playing Stuck in the Mud in Year 6 one day, and I think there was only about 4 or 5 of us playing, so there was one other kid on my team, Brian, and some girl called Jessica tipped me, so it was Brian's job to crawl through my legs and make me unstuck.
So why did Brian never come back to make you unstuck?
Well, his parents came and grabbed him during that lunchtime. It turned out that they were moving to Melbourne that day, and we haven't been able to find him since. People have said to me, well, why don't you just keep playing the game and make yourself unstuck? Who was going to know? But I was going to know. For 19 years I've been saying, rules are rules.
We spoke to Mr. Jim Fletcher, the teacher who was on yard duty that day at school.
Gary Richards he always was a law-abiding student. I mean, never caused a ruckus in the classroom, never dropped any litter in the playground, and it doesn't come as a surprise to hear that he was a stickler for the rules. I seem to recall on that day the bell went for the end of lunch and we insisted he come inside, but he just kept on saying that rules are rules.
Just to put things in perspective, the last time Gary Richards slept in a bed or went indoors, the world was a very different place. The late Ronald Reagan was the ruler of the free world, the Berlin Wall was still standing, and the compact disc was something only the very rich could afford.
Oh look, it gets tough out here. I mean, it gets cold in winter, when it's raining I get sick. I've been by myself for a lot of the major moments of my life. I was alone when my voice broke, and I learned about the birds and the bees by actually watching birds and bees. They didn't seem to mind. Meeting people is hard, as friends, but especially girlfriends. There's not many that come out here. There was this one girl once called Stacey. We were getting on really well, but she wanted more than I could give her. She wanted to go places that, well, weren't this oval. I just couldn't do that. She didn't understand. But I've learnt to adapt. My little sister Susie, she's a qualified hairdresser, so she'll come over every couple of months and give me a bit of a touch up. And the mum and dad and Susie all take turns bringing me meals and stuff, so I get by.
It is really weird having a brother who lives on an oval, but doesn't look like Gary's coming home anytime soon. He always says that rules are rules. But it is really, really hard. I remember on my 8th birthday, I was sitting there and blowing out my candles, and I just wished if only Gary would come home. It's just, can you just stop the camera?
I'm usually pretty good at telling what time it is by the position of the sun, and about now I'd say it's about 3. Oh.
I'm so sorry, she never usually does that.
It's alright, happens a couple of times a day anyway, so.
When was the last time you tried to track down Brian, the man who can make you unstuck? Have you tried to Google him, for example? After explaining to Gary what a laptop, the internet, and finally what Google was, we managed to track Brian down. Brian Reid?
Yes?
Does the name Gary Richards mean anything to you?
Stuck in the mud.
Brian was only too happy to come and finish the game that he and Gary started 19 years ago, meaning that Gary Richards is no longer stuck in the mud.
I'm now just really excited to get on with the rest of my life. I've got so much to catch up on. And even though I've had a bit of a deprived upbringing in some ways because of my experience, I know that what I do now with the rest of my life will only be limited by my own determination and imagination.